Welcome to the 18th episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense podcast, your home for all things nerdom, gaming, tech, and entertainment. Besides here on YouTube, you can also find us on iTunes and Google Play Music. Also be sure to follow us on Twitter for the latest updates and info, at Nerdom and Other. And today we'll be talking about the games we've played this week and some current news, but the main topic of our discussion is going to be on how video game cheat codes have all but disappeared from games and some of our favorites from the past. I'm Savage, and with me today I have...
Bcom
and Leo.
So, how are you guys doing?
Not so great. So, as some sports fans might know, the NBA... the National Basketball Association, for those of you who are really not sports fans, held the draft lottery last night. And what the draft lottery is where the teams who played bad enough last year or made trades with other teams who played really badly get to find out where they pick in the draft that comes up in a month or two. And I'm a New York Knicks fan, and at the end of last season, they decided to just win some pointless games because I have no idea why. I kind of blame management, too, because they just didn't sit our starters, and management should know better than that. Like, there's no point to winning games at the end of the season. We were already way out of the playoffs. There's just no point. And the way the NBA works is, like, the NBA is so focused on star players that you have to do everything you can possibly do to get star players on your team, because you're never going to beat a team with like LeBron James or Steph Curry without a star player. But instead, the Knicks decided to be stupid and win pointless games, so they were projected to get the 7th pick when they at one point would have been getting the 4th pick. And then in the lottery last night, they didn't even get the 7th pick. They got the 8th pick. So what I'm saying is I hate the Knicks, and I hate basketball, and I hate my life. How are you doing, Leo?
Wow. Well, my week's been better. I've been watching the Alien trilogy in anticipation of seeing Alien Covenant this week. It's one of my all-time favorite series, really.
That's so awesome, because like I told you just before the podcast, I actually watched Aliens, the second Alien movie in the trilogy, for the first time this week, and it was so good. I kind of feel stupid for waiting so long to watch it. I watched Alien like a million years ago, but never watched Aliens. I think somebody a long time ago told me like, oh, it's like an action movie, and I think maybe somebody like told me about Alien 3 or Alien Resurrection, and I thought that Aliens 2 was also bad. Sorry, just Aliens, not Aliens 2. That's why it took me so long to watch it. But man, I loved it so much.
It's not bad.
It's also so good. Yeah.
What did you think about how the aliens, CGI aliens, looked in the new trailers compared to how the old puppets / animatronics / all the goopy goo effects and stuff compared?
Well, yeah, so like James Cameron did that old Aliens movie and like paid so much attention to like the models and like the makeup and everything, that like when I was watching a commercial of Alien Covenant yesterday, like after I had watched Aliens, I was just like, man, it just doesn't feel right. Like the face huggers and the alien like jumping at you, like it looks good enough for like the CGI age, but there is something like visceral about those old like puppets and like costumes that people walked around in. Oh,
yeah,
man,
they would look
so good.
It aged so well. I still think it looks better than the CGI, but it's just had to bring that up. But
the last thing about Aliens I want to say is that Halo ripped off so many things straight from Aliens. Like the assault rifles that they use. Sergeant Johnson is literally a character in Aliens. Like, he's got, like, the cigar and everything. Talks like Sergeant Johnson. He's like, hey, Marines, we gotta go! You know, it's the exact same character. The head cams that they wear in Halo when they meet the Flood, and how they're watching the head cams through, like, a screen, and, like, Chief is seeing what happened to them. Also, the Flood are basically based on the aliens. Like, the little ones are, like, the face huggers. The big ones are, like, the xenomorphs. It's, like, exactly the same thing. There's I could go on and on. Like everything about Aliens was just straight ripped off by Halo Combat Evolved.
Wow.
Completely. But
Yeah,
so that was
Alien-
fun to see.
Yeah, our listeners have not seen the. I usually just call it the Alien trilogy because the first 3 ones are the better ones.
Mhm.
But if people have not seen it, please go watch it. It is so good. But also,
seen it.
You should. It's so good.
Savage, go see it. But
Sigourney
anyways,
Weaver is amazing.
yeah, I also heard that you had the most boring week out of either of us, meaning Bcom and I. How'd that go?
Just your friendly neighborhood battery. Yeah, so
You mean assault?
Did your
and
wife
battery.
beat you again? Savage, stand up, man.
no, it wasn't my wife this time. No. No, all kidding aside. So I was driving home from an interview on Monday, so 2 days ago, and accidentally cut somebody off. I didn't see him. Cut him off while passing a semi. He honked his horn, flipped me off, typical stuff. No big deal. Apparently it was a lot bigger deal to that guy because he followed me all the way to my house. And then once I realized he had followed me to my house, I tried to close my garage door while I was parked inside my garage. He then kicked the garage door back up, the sensor on the bottom, so it doesn't crush somebody. Kicked it back up and then attacked me in my own garage. Tried to choke me and then we wrestled.
Little fisticuffs.
Well, I didn't throw a punch. I just wrestled him because he was an older guy. So I wrestled him down to the ground outside of my garage and then just held him there. And then the cops eventually showed up and yeah. So basically,
Wait, an old man attacked you?
he wasn't old, but in his 50s, I think. So yeah.
Okay.
Man, you're super lucky he didn't have a gun.
Yeah.
That's my reaction. Because road rage, people are they lose their freaking minds. They just completely lose their minds sometimes.
Yeah, that
You never know
situation
what's
could
gonna
have been
happen.
so much more serious. Holy crap.
Yeah, and you really have to be aware sometimes if people are tailing you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I live in essentially what I friendly will joke is a retirement community because all my neighbors are retired and my wife and I are clearly the youngest people in our neighborhood.
Same for me on my street. I got 2 old ladies that live on each side of me.
Oh, dude, I got old people living on in every house in my neighborhood. I think the closest people age-wise to my wife and I are 20 years older than us. So, I mean, it's significant, but I was oh, crap. So,
He's right behind me.
I can joke about it now because I'm fine and everything, but yeah, it definitely could have been a lot worse. And if it had been my wife instead of me, whoa. So yeah, a little fun week. So
Yeah, not to mention he knows where you
okay.
live now.
I will say though, it has benefited me. Not on a personal level, but on a specific gaming level. Because my awareness has been heightened so much because of it. The last 4 games of League of Legends I've played, I've gotten an S rank on every character because I just have this heightened sense of awareness of everything going on.
You'll never get ganked again.
Oh,
Not once.
Slightly beneficial. So what have you guys been playing this week?
I've been playing the Forza Horizon 3 DLC Hot Wheels. That is just hella fun.
How is that?
It's really fun. Just a quick tip. When you do play it, immediately there's a specific new tire that comes out and it's the Hot Wheels tire. Put it on. It's the only tire that can grip those tracks. Otherwise, it's like driving on ice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's what you have to do. All the loops are really fun. It does the crisscross stuff. They'll do big old turns where there's the railing gone on one side and you're trying to shove people off. It's really cool. I'm having a blast playing it.
So is it similar to the old Hot Wheels Turbo Racing game that was on PS1?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Oh my god. I'll have to record some video of it and just send it to you and be is it like this?
Yeah, dude. I'll tell you if it is or not. But I kind of stopped playing Fire Emblem Heroes for a while because
Thank
I was just way too OP. But now they've changed a couple things. I've been playing again, and I got some new characters I want to get up to level 40. And I was just doing some research on the characters and going through like multiple, people make their own tier sets and whatnot, or they collect data into it. And I actually can build an entire team of like S pluses if I wanted to, which is the highest ranking.
That's awesome.
Scary. I still don't have a Takumi though. I want a Takumi and I want a Linda, because Linda's a glass cannon and they're always fun, and Takumi's just still, his counterattack's just insane.
Cool.
But that's it. What about you, Bcom?
I played my own racing game, which was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for Nintendo Switch, which is, it's Mario Kart. But it's really like amazing package because, it all came out on Wii U, and now there's even more on the Switch. So, but like you load it up and there's like, I remember like Mario Kart 64, there were like 4 cups that, like, you went through. This one has like freaking 10 cups at least, or maybe 12. I don't even remember. So there's like just so many different tracks to like race, and then the online has worked really well. You can just easily jump into online little like matches or tournaments. I haven't played much of the battle mode, but from what I have, it's pretty fun.
So you're saying the Switch online is actually decent?
For Mario Kart, at least, yeah. I mean, I remember even with like Wii Mario Kart, the online was like decent enough. So Mario Kart seems to be a thing that they usually get right. But it is Mario Kart, so man, it's just like, it's annoying when you get hit by a shell and then get hit by another blue shell and then somebody bumps you and then you go from first place to like 9th place with like 3 seconds left. Like, that's the Mario Kart experience. It's just like, oh,
yeah,
God.
I played the crap out of it on Super Nintendo. And also, really, Mario Kart's I feel like it's meant to play with a bunch of buddies. And that's the way Forza Horizon's been. If we get online and there's like 5 of us, dude, we have so much freaking fun. It's almost a whole new game at that point.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. I like racing games with friends, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about one of those in the news. But yeah, so besides Mario Kart, I've also started playing Prey, which is the newest game from Bethesda. But I'm not too far into it because of some technical difficulties on my end. But it's interesting. I like the start of that game a lot. It starts off kind of calm but unsettling. It also has some great music from Mick Gordon, who also did the music for Doom. So
I played part of the demo. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Yeah, I have to get further into that game because a lot of people have been comparing it a little bit to like Zelda in that it, like, the physics wise, because you can do so many weird things with the physics in that game and with some of the weapons that you get. But I haven't gotten to that part yet. I haven't gotten to like where it really opens up yet because I'm still very early. Another game I played this week that got recommended on a bunch of podcasts I listened to is a mobile clicker game called Space Plan, which is a very minimalist game. Basically, you are like a little tiny pixel-sized spaceship that is orbiting around like Earth, except everyone is dead. And you basically, it's a clicker game, so you're just constantly clicking on like this one box on the screen. And what it does is like it builds up like power for your ship, and you can spend that power on different things. Like some of them like will help you create power faster, and like some of them will like research the planet and try and find out what happened to the human race. So anyway, like the way that it stands out from other clickers a little bit is it has like an actual narrative to it, and it's a kind of like quirky one where you do find out more about like what happens and where you are and like what time period it is and all this stuff. I think it was talked up a little too much on some of the podcasts I listened to. Like, it's basically like a 5 or 6 hour game, depending on how fast you can get through the clicking sections and stuff. But
is it not that difficult?
No, because you just click. Like that's the only difficulty, and then like you decide like what to buy at different times. So like you'll get there eventually. You just have to keep clicking. And then you'll eventually win. Also, one of my problems with this game is that the box that you have to click is insanely small and you can't move it anywhere. Like there's a lot of clicker games that have like bigger buttons that you can click, or like you can reposition the button at least, so it's like more comfortable ergonomically for you. I think that's kind of important, and this one is like really stupidly placed in my opinion, but I don't know. It was fun for like the little story it had, and the ending was like kind of trippy. So I guess that was sort of worth like the $2 I paid for it or whatever it was. Besides that, I've been playing some Borderlands co-op with one of Savage's bros, and that's been kind of fun because I never finished Borderlands and never even knew you could play Borderlands 1 in co-op. I've always heard of Borderlands 2. Yeah, I just didn't know. Like, I played it single player back when I got it.
Oh, I played a ton of it with our buddy Dragon.
Oh, yeah.
Borderlands 1 and 2. Just a ridiculous amount. Of course, we glitched the crap out of the game, but that was really what made it really fun, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Like, it's just like a constant, like, loot, like, thing. It's a little bit like Destiny, except, like, even faster paced. Because you're just constantly like finishing missions, getting new weapons, like moving on. It's fun, and you know the characters are quirky and weird, but still pretty early on in that. I got like 4 hours into that or something, and then Portal 2 co-op we played a little bit of as well. Specifically, like the community test chambers where people have uploaded their own maps, which I never played before, and some of the community uploaded maps are just fantastic. Like, there's just, like, a whole community of people making, like, genius maps out there, and they were really fun. So, that's me for this week. Anything you played, Savage, besides League?
Nope. I didn't have time, really, for very much. This
just
past week,
Mike Tyson's Punch-Out in your garage.
Yeah. No, it was Mahatma Gandhi's simulator. But
all right,
no, I mean I was in Milwaukee for 4 days, so
that's right.
That's why we didn't record a podcast last week. It's
cool.
Because well, we didn't record last Wednesday. I'll throw Bcom in front of, and then Leo, you can drive the bus over him.
I can drive the bus this time. Yay!
We had scheduling conflicts. Let's move on. Leo, why don't you lead us off with the news?
All right, so. In this extremely crazy case of just showing how dedicated and fun the Destiny community is, Destiny Raiders killed all bosses without using guns or dying. Just any game in general, that should sound insane, and believe me, it was. Basically, they just did a really good job. I watched some of the video. I didn't get to watch the whole thing. It's like 50 minutes, but it took them like 60 hours to actually record all of it because they would get so close and then they would accidentally wipe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they would have to, restart back over. They weren't that, like they said, they just killed the bosses. So they got to the final bosses, and then like if they knew they were going to wipe, they would just trade off team leader real quick, so that they always still had the same spot or doing whatever they had to. But basically what they did is just use their really good job of chaining their supers. And I think that it looks like they were definitely running with max discipline. So they had grenades on the fly just all the time. But did you get to watch any of it, Bcom?
No, but I didn't realize that they were playing like all of the raids all the way through in a row to do this. That's pretty nuts.
What I saw from the video, they just had the saves at the bosses.
Oh, okay. Now, you were saying it was taking like 60 hours though.
But it took them 60 hours to get it. Yeah, I mean, even just doing the boss fights. Can you imagine attempting that without a gun?
No, that would be rough.
Yeah, like, and the point of view I was watching, they have other point of views. He was using Hunter and the golden gun. And like they were in like Vault of Glass, and I saw him like hit the boss guy like 4 times before it was over because everybody was just chaining super so rapidly in that little area. It was cool and intense, but I'm just saying that's the Destiny community for you. They're a bunch of crazy people, and it's always actually been a really nice community. But
yeah,
moving on.
I agree. Moving on, we have major news this week. The Wall Street Journal reports that Nintendo is developing a new Legend of Zelda game for smartphones.
I might have to pick this up. if it's as, I mean, I like Zelda, don't get me wrong, but I still can't buy a Switch.
Yeah, we don't know anything more about it, but yeah, it makes sense that they would make something Zelda for smartphones. What this ends up being, I really have no idea, though.
Well,
it could be anything, I guess.
I think at this point it comes down to the fact that Nintendo's kind of realized that as phones get more and more technologically advanced, the need for like a 3DS or something like that is kind of disappearing. So they have their console and the Switch, which is also similar to a 3DS. But then smartphones themselves, there's no need to make a Zelda game for a 3DS. You either make it for smartphones or the Switch.
Well, I'm going to jump ahead to another piece of news because Nintendo also announced a new 2DS XL.
Why? Oh, I wanted to bring up a something out of that last article. So they feel like it's going to be a free-to-play game since the Fire Emblem Heroes brought in more profit than Super Mario Run, despite a much smaller number of downloads. I think that's kind of important.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
but Fire Emblem Heroes is like microtransaction hell if you get stuck in it.
Yeah, I think they learned a lot from that Mario game and like the pushback against charging what they did for it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But yeah, it's funny that you've said that, Savage, because like since Nintendo is putting out like a new 2DS XL, so it's actually kind of, I think it's a great idea because it's removing all of the 3D hardware that's in the 3DS, which cuts down on the weight of the console and also the price by $50. So the 2DS is now $149, and it also has like the new thumbstick that the new 3DS has. It's basically a 3DS except without that 3D hardware that nobody really used anyway or needed or wanted. So yeah, it's actually pretty cool. So Nintendo's still making those handheld games. So.
Does it come built in with a fidget spinner?
So, God, what started this fidget spinner like explosion?
I'm not sure, but I do know that there is actual science backing it.
And they work.
Yeah,
straight up, I've used one this past weekend. They work.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, they are freaking amazing. I love them.
I saw my first one. I was at the gas station. I was just getting like a Gatorade or something real quick, and the cashier guy was sitting there just like spinning it like crazy on his fingers, and he like set it down, let it keep spinning, and like my initial reaction is like, you guys are stupid idiots, but there's actual science backing it, so I'm totally behind it. Like when people like, I don't know, fidgety or whatever, which is perfectly why it's named that, they have a quick outlet, but I'm afraid it's going to be a fad, and then it'll die out. And then the people who actually need it will just be like outcasted as like, you know, that's what I'm afraid is going to happen. And I believe Cram from the Popcorn Poops podcast also tweeted the same stuff. So,
well, see, I have used the fidget spinner, and it's okay to get by like temporarily, because being all ADD like I am sometimes, it's hard to stay focused. So as long as I like have something in my hands just to fidget with, the spinner itself does a decent enough job, but like having something to fidget with and give my body something to do so I can have my mind focus on like what it needs to focus on.
So give me an example. This is so impromptu. This came out of nowhere, but it's really perks my curiosity. Like in what situation were you that you found it working for you?
So for one, driving, like where you're just sitting there driving for a long period of time. And like, if you're ADD like me, if you're in the car for like 4 hours, just sitting there driving on a straight road, you can be distracted, which isn't something you want driving. So if you just have that like in your hand, it helps so much, because it's like, okay, my body's doing something, and kind of like subconsciously focusing on that. And I was just alert the whole time driving, didn't have a problem. Like, okay, just keep like it's hard to explain, but like you just feel more aware and like not as drowned out. And I didn't feel like I was just like looking all over and not in front of me on the road.
I kind of get it.
Or like sitting at my desk working on videos or like graphic design or something like that. I'll just sit there and like play with something. Usually I'll click a pen. Like,
yeah, I was wondering what you would use that in your modern day workplace.
Yeah, I would if I actually sat at a computer at work. Like usually at work, I use both my hands for a lot of stuff, so I don't have like free space. But Now, if I was sitting behind a computer like every day, definitely. But I don't like the fidget spinner as much as I want desperately like a fidget cube, which is something similar. And that has, it's not just spinning, it's literally like a bunch of different things, like a light switch and a bunch of just like clicky stuff as well. And that for me seems like it has a lot more staying power.
See, the whole thing makes sense to me because I always find myself stroking my beard, intentional or not. So it's like my own fidget outlet, I guess. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many people, especially like us, where we're like constantly consuming, content or looking stuff up, and especially with gaming, like we're always doing multiple things at once anymore. So having something to just like take that fidget like thing, because if you're just sitting there, like what do you do when you're on your lunch or something? You have a conversation with somebody, but you're also on your phone at the same time.
Oh, I just thought of a perfect example. I could use one, and that would be for some of the shows that Bcom's making me watch for the anime podcast.
It could be your fidget spinner squeezy.
Yeah, because if Gio's in my lap, she gets a nice little kitty massage, but if she's not there, I'm sitting there looking around my room thinking about how I should rearrange it, and then realize I should be watching the show instead. We want to get back to news, guys?
Yeah, sure. So, Ubisoft made a bunch of announcements this week leading into E3. It revealed that it is making The Crew 2 and Far Cry 5, as well as dating some of its other games like South Park, The Fractured But Whole for October, and just a couple other announcements like that. But I'm a little bit surprised that they're making The Crew 2. This is the driving game I was talking about, where it's like all focused on like having a bunch of friends and like driving across like the United States. And it wasn't so successful at launch. I did hear that they made it a lot better through patches. But I liked the premise of that just because it reminded me of old games like Cruising USA and stuff, where like you would drive across the country, right? Like it would show you moving across the map, like in between levels. But this one was like okay, you actually drive across the country. It's not to scale, but you can drive from like New York to LA in like an hour or something. It's kind of cool. So. Yeah, but it never really took off. So I'm interested that they're going to make a second one here and hopefully learn from some of the mistakes of the first one and make like a good, decent rival to Forza Horizon, possibly.
Maybe.
Yeah. And then, the other big announcement was Far Cry 5, which is basically just titled. It's a weird logo where it's like white with blue and red, so people are assuming that means that it's set in the United States. There's a lot of rumors that it's going to be set in Montana specifically, but I don't know if those rumors are true or not.
Montana?
Yeah, just Montana. I mean,
when is the last time you've even seen Montana in the news?
I'm not sure Montana actually exists. I haven't been there.
Even though it's freaking huge. Is this our second biggest state? Next to Alaska, obviously.
No, Alaska and Texas. And then after that, though...
Oh, is it Montana?
I don't know. No, California. And then, I'm not sure. Montana is very big, though. Yeah,
just look it on a map. It's one of the... it's probably... We can easily say in the top 5, probably.
Yeah. Sure. And then, I'll group this in. The other big thing to come out of Ubisoft... we saw screenshots like last week or the week before now. I can't remember. Assassin's Creed Origins leaked and now has been confirmed by Ubisoft in their shareholders call or whatever to be coming out. And so it's heavily rumored to be set in ancient Egypt. There's a screenshot that leaked of the main protagonist, and he's like sailing a boat in what looks like the Nile River. And then there's some additional rumors saying that the game's scope might reach beyond Egypt. You might be able to sail around the entire Mediterranean to places like Greece. And also it's rumored that there's 2 protagonists, a man and a woman, kind of like Assassin's Creed Syndicate. And you can probably expect to see a lot more of that at E3 in less than a month now. So that's exciting. You guys, Savage, you ready to play the new Assassin's Creed?
Nope.
But You love the old Assassin's Creed.
I love the old Assassin's Creeds, but I gave up after 4. Like, the franchise just became too redundant, where it was like, okay, same crap every year. Like, it was fine when it was every other year, and it was building on a story, like the Ezio trilogy, and that was good. But then after that, it kind of like 3, I was like, ugh, 3 was not good. 4 was not good. 5, I was like, it looks half decent, but it's not worth taking a risk on an Assassin's Creed game again. So I quit the franchise. So
it's going to be interesting because they did take a year off last year. So this will be their one that they've worked on for 2 years. But I mean, what do you think? What would you want to make you come back to Assassin's Creed? Like, what could they do to get you back?
Well, at this point, I don't know the story. Like the running storyline of the people in present day.
Oh, they dropped present day completely at one point. I think after 4, they just stopped doing the present day stuff.
Didn't they make a movie?
They did make a movie, but we don't want to talk
so
about
bad.
that.
It's so bad.
I thought it had come out, but I wasn't sure because I've heard nothing about it, and that
It was
probably
apparently
explains
a terrible
why.
train wreck. Yeah.
Oh, it's awful.
It's rumored that they're going to bring back the present day stuff in this new one, though.
I mean, that
which is
would
good
help.
because I liked that stuff.
Yeah, that there needed to be a storyline other than, oh, hey, you're an assassin with no purpose because nobody cares about why you're here. Just go kill a bunch of people.
That felt so lazy to me. I agree. Yeah.
And it's like, so bringing the present day stuff back where there's actually like a storyline, like an underlying storyline, like you see the storyline in the character in the historical time, but you also have the storyline of the present day, whether it's just in cutscenes or like playable moments. So I don't know. I don't know if there's really anything Ubisoft can do at this point to get me back onto Assassin's Creed. I feel like the franchise itself is kind of tired just because there's been so many games. And it's kind of, I think, to the point with like Halo. How many Halos can you make before people are like, okay, it's just going to be slightly different?
The answer is 4.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I started falling out about 4. What's the latest one? Is that the 5th?
Yeah. Halo 5 Guardians.
And I tried playing it, and I did enjoy my little bit of time, but I always wanted to play something else, usually Destiny. But
yeah, I mean, I think we're to the point in gaming where companies aren't going to be able to just rely on old IPs anymore. So specifically this year, and this isn't a main topic, and I'll try to keep it short, but like specifically this year, you see a lot of new IPs doing very well, breaking records, because the new IPs are what people are looking for. It's gamers now are older and they don't want to play the same stuff they played 10 years ago. They want to have a new experience. You know, it's nice to connect with those old characters, but if you do it every 2 years and just put out the same thing, people don't want that anymore. Like Horizon Zero Dawn, both of you love that game. There's nothing else like it.
Yeah, no, it's pretty amazing new IP.
Yeah,
that one.
yeah. I mean, you could make comparisons, but it definitely has its own uniqueness to it.
Well, and then Destiny. Yeah. I mean, we all just got hooked on Destiny. There was no game like Destiny at the time.
Yeah, it's basically the first shooter, and they don't say it's an MMO, but to me, it's a shooter MMO, and I've never played one, and that's pretty much what hooked me. And of course, the loot table. You know, always got to get the loot.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many things that haven't been done in gaming before that now that they're being done, people are really latching on to them. Or in the case of Horizon Zero Dawn with like a really compelling story, people are latching onto that versus, well, we just want the newest and greatest like graphics on the same old multiplayer game that we've played for forever.
Or you could say Destiny, that had a pretty terrible story.
Yeah, that's
no
true.
story, and it was all about gameplay. But the gameplay, I felt like they nailed. But
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, eventually we'll get to the point where as gamers we'll be able to demand gameplay and story, and that will happen when Valve puts out another new IP. But
I want to say, I think I read an article where we're part of the problem of why we don't get very heavy story-driven stuff. It's like what we demand is almost never the story. We complain about it, but then that's the end of it.
Well, the thing is, statistics show that like 90% of people only play like maybe like the first hour of a game. Like, so like companies have good reason not to focus on like the last several hours of like their 20-hour game or even their 10-hour game. Like, because people just don't finish games. Like,
because they never make it to the end,
majority
so
of
why
people-
pay
Yeah.
a writer to write you something good?
Yeah, they're never going to see those final levels, like almost everyone who plays the game. So why even work?
What,
that hard?
90%? Are you serious?
It's like, it's really, I think it is like 90. Yeah.
Which is weird because when you think about it, you also have like you think about the franchises that people want to see sequels from. You want to see a Half-Life sequel. So you get Half-Life 2, Half-Life 3. Well, not Half-Life 3. But you get the sequels from stuff that had great compelling stories in their first run. Halo exists because it had a great compelling story. That's why it's still around. I mean, they're way past that now. But I'm trying to think of other examples. I mean, Assassin's Creed in the beginning, the first like 3 or 4 games had great stories. It's the classic games like that have those stories that you remember. You don't remember a game that just has good gameplay because you're going to see a game with good gameplay every year. That's why nobody remembers the Call of Duty stories. You remember Call of Duty, oh, it's a shooter. I can just go kill all my friends, and I have to buy a new one every year if I want to stay current.
I mean, the only one I really remember much of is Modern Warfare. Because it had some legendary missions in that game. But like, I still couldn't tell you exactly what happened in the story of that game.
I couldn't name more than 2 characters in that game.
Yeah. Yeah.
What, Soap and
I don't know.
Yeah.
There was a guy named Soap.
Probably somebody named Mason. I don't know.
No, Mason was
Soap.
Black Ops.
Oh,
So you got
that's
Soap
Black Ops.
Bar, Mason Jar.
Soap McTavish.
Yeah. But it's that type of thing. Like, the games that have the staying power, like The Last of Us. There's The Last of Us 2 because The Last of Us 1 had such a great story.
Indeed.
So,
Man, I'm so glad there's The Last of Us 2. Sometimes I just lay awake at night and think about The Last of Us 2 because it makes me so happy. I can't wait for that game. But yeah, you make a great point that, stories are the things that keep us coming back to games. Though, like, for some games, like Destiny, like Leo was saying, the gameplay is what keeps me coming back. There is a level of gameplay that is so good that it'll keep you coming back. Like, especially, let's think about, like, with League of Legends also. Like, does the story of League of Legends keep you coming back? No, I don't think so. It's just the gameplay. It's the repetitive gameplay that's so addicting and good. And then also, like, loot, I guess, and, like, skins and your friends.
To that point, I think it has to do also with the saturation of the market for that specific game. So FPS is obviously like this huge genre of game. There's so many FPS games out there that the only ones we remember are the ones with stories. These smaller markets where you have an MMO FPS like Destiny, well, there's nothing else like it. So it's obviously going to stand out. Versus you have, or like League of Legends, there's only so many MOBAs for PC. There's Dota, League of Legends, Heroes of the Storm. Like, those are the big MOBAs. Those are the popular ones.
It's true, yeah.
It's a smaller market, so you just pick the one that you like the gameplay of the best, and then you kind of deal with it, and it doesn't really matter what the story is. But if you're talking about FPSs and even like RPGs are very heavily story-based. Like, would you play Persona 5 if it didn't have a good story? If it was just the gameplay? Probably not.
That's a hard question for me, only because, like, I would probably play Persona 5 if it was a stripped-down version with just the gameplay, if it still had the entire soundtrack intact and those gorgeous character designs. I wouldn't enjoy it nearly as much. Like, it wouldn't be like a Game of the Year contender anymore. But I would still enjoy it just because, like, so many other elements of that game are so good. But your point stands. Like, most RPGs, you play for the story. Like, that's why people are not enjoying Mass Effect Andromeda so much. Besides the technical limitations, the story just, people feel, is not up to par with the rest of the Mass Effect series. So
Yeah, or like Fallout 4. Fallout 4, good game gameplay-wise, but the story kind of fell short, so the player base has just dropped off. Like,
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's nobody talking about Fallout 4 anymore, and everybody, I remember when it came out, was so hyped about it and like, oh, wow, this game's going to be around for a long time. It's not, though.
I played Fallout 4 was my first Fallout game, and I really liked it. I thought the story was pretty good. And I really liked how, depending on what faction you chose, it literally affected the world.
Yeah, that's good.
I thought it was one of the cool things it did.
Do yourself
but I guess
a
I can't
favor
compare
and
it to
go
the
play
others.
Fallout 3. Fallout 3 has one of the best stories in an open world game.
Or even just Fallout New Vegas, because that had a great story as well.
It had a great story, but not good gameplay, was my problem with Vegas.
Yeah, I can see what you mean there. Yeah. All right, let's move on from this conversation and tackle a little bit more news. Quick note that Ace Combat 7 has been delayed into 2018, which is upsetting to me because I was really looking forward to this Ace Combat game. It looks freaking dope. I just want to play it as soon as possible.
And I see it might also be VR, which would prompt me to possibly buy a PlayStation VR.
Well,
Yeah,
all they
that'd be
need
really
to
cool.
do is skin it with Star Wars, and Bcom would be a happy, happy man.
Again, this is all I want. I will keep demanding it until it just EA just makes the damn game. Someday. Someday. So another interesting piece of news, Risk of Rain 2 has been announced. If you remember Risk of Rain, it was a little 2D platformer with a unique aesthetic that came out several years ago, where it was very zoomed out, and like the character that you controlled was like really tiny, and it was, fighting against, it's a roguelike, and it was fighting against all these other like weird like creatures and things. It was very quirky. And so, but they announced that their new second game is going to be completely in 3D. So it's completely different look, like way more ambitious type of platformer. And so I'm kind of interested to see how this ends up and how the community that loved Risk of Rain accepts it or doesn't accept it, because it's a very big change from the first game. But I'm kind of encouraged to see like a developer like not resting on like their laurels and just like making the same thing again. They're really trying to make something bigger and better, and like probably become more accomplished as like game developers basically, and show what they're capable of. It's pretty cool.
So I have to ask, since I've never heard of this game, is it carrying on the story from the first one, or is there a story component of it, or is it just like a completely new game that's in the same vein of the platforming style, but in a 3D environment?
That's a good question. I didn't see anything about whether or not it would be like a sequel, like story-wise, to the first one.
Yeah,
I also don't know how much actual story the first game really had.
Well, because my thing with that is, if you don't want to alienate your fans, then why call it Risk of Rain 2 unless it's carrying on from where the first one started, if you're going to do a different style. So
I assume it's going to have some of the same like creatures and other elements that Risk of Rain had. But yeah, that's a good point. You do risk like losing a bunch of fans there. It's true.
You risk raining on your fans. Parade.
It was a risky Risk of Rain move. Okay, another piece of news. I saw that a company called Lucid Sound has announced a world-first Xbox headset, which is completely wireless. So it doesn't require any cords or a base station to connect to your Xbox One for audio or chat. No cords between your headset and the controller either. So just no cords at all.
I'm surprised it took this long.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that a company called Lucid Sound is the like. Why doesn't like Astro headsets or Turtle Beach have this technology figured out?
So wait, is this saying there's like nothing you plug into your controller?
Exactly, like nothing at all.
Huh.
It syncs up like a Bluetooth headphone would, basically.
So
that's what they're saying.
Well, if it's Bluetooth, then it's probably only compatible with the Xbox One S, I'm presuming.
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I read the article, but I didn't see anything about that.
It connects to the Xbox One, and it can work with Windows 10 with a Bluetooth dongle, and people are assuming that it will work with Project Scorpio as well.
Interesting.
So, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I just really like the idea of that. I hope that the whole like gaming headset space moves in this direction, because wires are the enemy. and they're all over my living room. It's terrible.
So let's see. I'm going to inject a little piece of news since I didn't take the time to write it in here. Did either of you happen to see the Polygon article that came out yesterday?
Which one?
The one about Valve.
Yes, the one that was like, Valve is not good for gamers. Valve is not your friend.
Valve is not your friend, and Steam is not healthy for gaming.
Yeah, that one.
Where they basically rip Valve for being Valve. Where, like, okay, if you install Half-Life 2, you have to install Steam because you have to have an internet check on your CD key. So, like, the things people didn't like with the Xbox is basically, like, when they announced the Xbox One, is basically like, Valve's done that for forever, and people hated it when Xbox did it, but it's okay if Valve does it. And it's like, yeah, Valve did it, and it's okay with Valve because it's a first-party game. You know, like, I wouldn't have a problem if Microsoft did that with, like, Halo or any of their first-party, like, exclusive titles that are developed by Microsoft. Like, it's your console, your game. You can put whatever restrictions on it you want. If I have to pay an extra $5 a month to play it online, you're more than welcome to. You might isolate your fan base, but you're more than welcome to. And then it's like, and then the article's ridiculous because obviously it's written by Polygon, but it basically goes on and like rips Steam and Valve because like the Steam sales and everything, where people will just hype up a game because a game is good. So a bunch of people buy it and then it automatically jumps to the front page, which then means Valve gets more money because more people buy it. And it's like, well, Valve's getting free marketing off their consumer base. Well, that's how like, marketing has worked. that's how marketing has worked since the dawn of time. Literally. Eve ate the apple. Eve told Adam the apple was good, so Adam ate it. He didn't go to Polygon and look for a goddamn review.
Yeah, it just doesn't make... This article did feel a little bit weird to me. I typically like Polygon as a website, but this was like an opinion article. It even has a disclaimer at the beginning saying like this does not represent the views of Polygon.com as like a website. But like throughout this article, there's like weird like insinuations that like he keeps saying like good guy Valve, like as in like this snarky refrain. Like, people call Valve the good guy, and they're really this evil corporation. It's just like, no, they offered a service that was better than anybody else, including Microsoft, who could have done something like this since they had a complete monopoly over the PC market. But they couldn't offer a service that worked well, and Steam stepped into that void and did. And yes, now everybody wants to buy their games from Steam because it is an extremely useful and convenient service.
And above all, it's reliable.
Yeah, and extremely reliable, and like a huge community to like where everybody is and discusses everything, like and like offers patches, and I mean it doesn't make any sense to me, honestly. Like my friend recently got some games from the Humble Bundle sale, and he's big on DRM free games, and they give you the option to just download the games DRM free. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to play these games. And like his Xbox controller wasn't working with those games because like, it works with all of his Steam games. He's gaming on a Mac, which is a little bit weird, but gaming on Steam on the Mac, it made his Xbox controller work no problems. And gaming just, through like the game's exterior launcher on a Mac, he had to figure out some other workaround. So like, yeah, there's so many benefits to just gaming with Steam. And it just makes sense that it is the go-to place.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much just don't trust Polygon in general. Like, I understand they're a reliable news source, but I just cannot tolerate Polygon because they're so opinionated on pretty much everything they do. And anytime they try to have an objective game review, it always seems like they bash a game because they aren't a skilled enough player to play the game.
I've definitely seen a couple of examples of that over the years in the past. That's definitely a thing that has happened.
And it's like, if you're not good enough, you can't bash the game because you're not good enough. I mean, you can not like it, and that's fine. Like if something is too complex or so on and so forth for you, that's fine.
Do they do that with like the single player campaign, or do they do that mostly with like multiplayer?
Usually single player campaigns where like, oh, I can't beat this game in like a reasonable amount of time and it's just the difficulty is too hard. So they'll like give it an 8 out of 10 when everybody else is like 9.5. And it's ridiculous. I mean, not that game scores really mean anything to me because I always prefer to do my own review, but it's the point, like, I don't know. When it comes to taking other people's opinions on things, I don't take polygons.
Yeah, I typically just pay close enough attention that I only focus on specific reviewers who I know, and I know their track record and what kinds of games they like and what kind of gamers they are, and I'll focus on them. Like Arthur Gies, who's like one of the like main editors of Polygon. I trust him basically, and I know exactly what he likes and what he doesn't like in games, so I know when I'm reading one of his reviews sort of what to expect, and like if he doesn't like something, if that's like important to me or if it's not important to me. And I have like a whole list of reviewers like this, so like whenever I look at a new game, I go through the reviews written by those people and see what they think. And I think if you've been looking at reviews long enough, you'll develop a sort of short list of people like that. Or even if it's like for you, like with the Rooster Teeth guys, like what they think, or the Easy Allies guys, or the Kind of Funny guys, or like those people who maybe used to be game reviewers are now more like commentators and stuff. Just getting a sense of what they think as well.
Yeah, and I always think it's important to note when something is a paid review, or if somebody's being given something like pre-release as like, hey, we want you to play this and we want you to review it. You always have to take that with a grain of salt too, so.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, of course.
All right. So, a little bit more news. Darksiders 3 has been announced for release in 2018. The first two games were pretty fun, and the trailer for this one had some pretty badass stuff going on in it. It looks like a fun game. Had you guys ever played any of the Darksiders games before this?
Just the first one.
Yeah,
me too.
Anything else?
That's all I've played. I knew the second one had came out, but I never played it.
Yeah, I've heard it's pretty good. I'm kind of excited for this. I might go back and finish the second game before this one comes out. And yeah, that trailer looked really cool. And speaking of awesome game trailers, I don't know if you guys saw this.
I watched this, and I have to ask you, what did you just make me watch?
So Pixel Titans is a studio releasing a game called Strafe, and the game is out now, I believe. But they've had this weird, wacky, crazy marketing campaign where they've basically made over-the-top videos about their like little FPS game that are like just soaked in 80s and 90s bad commercial nostalgia.
Oh, so bad. It was marinating in it, dude.
Hold on, I'm watching this.
I love how over the top it is.
I see floppy disks.
Oh yeah, there's lots of floppy disks.
And the main character's like so cool because he's awesome at video games, and his girlfriend. It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, but I love how it's very self-aware. It's very self-aware. Like it's very much going for this like dumb like this the old like magazine video advertisements you would see where it's like, are you cool enough to play Nintendo, you little pussy? Like,
oh my god!
Like that. Obviously, that was never in a magazine, but like stuff like that, like close to that level.
I do like that the gamer guy gets the girl, even though he kills the wrong one. But whatever.
Yeah.
Where did they find cans of Surge for this commercial?
So Surge made a comeback like a couple years ago, and you could like find it on Amazon now. Like they started remaking Surge.
We have Surge at work. Savage.
Huh.
Yeah, they came back. I think sometime last year, at least at work.
Yeah, I remember when that came back, and I was like, "Why?" But also, yes,
because it's what. So Pepsi has Mountain Dew, right?
Yep.
Is Surge Coke?
I don't know.
I think it might be independent.
Surge might just be Surge.
Maybe it is.
Speaking of Surge, I'll just throw in a little piece of news. There's a new Dark Souls-like game that just came out called Surge, and it's basically a sci-fi Dark Souls. And I've seen some streams of it being played, and I've read reviews. And I'm a little bit underwhelmed by it, only because of the weapon choices. All the weapons in that game are these big, heavy metal things that you break off of the enemies that you fight, which are robots. And it's just fighting robots is just it doesn't feel as visceral as fighting Dark Souls enemies, monsters and humans and stuff. And just from the boss fights that I've seen in Surge that I've watched, didn't look up to par with Dark Souls. So I would love to see a great sci-fi Dark Souls game at some point, but this doesn't seem like it totally fits that bill. So that's too unfortunate.
Oh,
Savage,
okay.
Savage, how do you like that Strafe trailer?
That is absolutely absurd and beautiful all at the same time.
Oh, I would like to say I did my quick Surge research, and it was actually, yes, it was started by Coca-Cola in 1997 to directly compete with Pepsi's Mountain Dew during the 90s. But then it fell out. Because of lagging sales, they canceled it in 2003. But then due to Facebook Surge movement, they brought it back September 15th, 2014 via Amazon.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And then it eventually got re-released to stores in the southeast, northeast, parts of the Midwest, and the mountain states of America in sometime September 2015. So it's been back 2 years. Almost 2 years in September.
Amazing. Huh. Facebook movement. Wow.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Speaking
that's
of
your
movement,
interesting bit of news.
Bcom, how's Mario Kart 8?
So yeah, I talked about how I was playing a little bit of that, but it's been interesting in the news. Mario Kart 8 has been selling extremely well. It hasn't sold as well as Zelda, but I read that it had basically an over 50% attach rate, which is
it's
still
the only other
ridiculous.
game to play on the Switch, right?
I mean, it's the only other major game. Yes, I agree.
But
it has a 92 on
already 3
Metacritic.
years old.
I know it's 3 years old. That's the weirdest thing about this to me. Is so there's an equity analyst who stated that the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sales are not indicative of just a hit, but a mega hit that is going to keep selling and selling, which is so weird to me because the game was already out on Wii U in its entirety. So you would think that it wouldn't be a mega hit on the new console, but I guess it's a mixture of people have nothing else to play on the Switch, and also people did not buy the Wii U. So now that they have a Switch, they want to buy the Mario Kart game that they missed out on.
Makes
sense. That's why I feel like Nintendo should walk away with this saying, hey, we should re-release a bunch of those really great games from the Wii U that never saw the light of day on our Switch. And I hope they're planning to do that, because I think they will have some more hits on their hands that just people who never wanted to buy a Wii U will play now on the Switch. But yeah. Last piece of news this week, we've got, on the heels of Bayonetta being released, Platinum's Vanquish is also going to be released on Steam on May 25th. And that's the Platinum game where you're a dude who slides around everywhere and shoots stuff, and it's cool and it's fun.
What do? I slide and shoot.
I slide and shoot. That's all I do. So yeah, you can look forward to that. Let's get into quick entertainment news section. So the Witcher series of novels, which have obviously already been adapted into 3 extremely good video games, is being adapted into a Netflix live TV series, live action TV series. So I think that makes a ton of sense. There are so many things about this that makes it it's totally Game of Thrones when you think about it. Except more focused on one protagonist's journeys, but you got a ton of hot chicks, you got Geralt fighting monsters and stuff. That'll be interesting to see how they do that. How is it do they have the budget for the CGI eagles and griffins and other crap that he fights?
That would be a big deal.
And like just Geralt's makeup, like his eyes and stuff. Like, are they gonna go with like the cat eye like contacts and stuff? Is it gonna look good? But who cares about all that? We just want to know who they're casting as like Yennefer and Triss. That's all we want to know, because they need to be super hot.
Oh wow. But anyways, I saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and it's freaking awesome. And all I have to say about it is, I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
I saw that tweet that you retweeted with Michael Rooker standing next to a Mary Poppins.
Yes.
And I was like, yes, that's so good.
It is, that scene is hilarious, and that line is my favorite line from the movie, and it just sold it for me. And he was originally a character I didn't care about at all, but in the Guardians of the Galaxy 2, he suddenly became one of my favorite characters out of nowhere.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
He definitely, I feel like, stole every scene he was in this movie, especially some of the interactions between him and Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah,
with some parallels between them that I thought like really came across well. Yeah, I saw this movie too, and I just felt like emotionally, like it was just so well paced and so well written. Which a lot of superhero movies, DC, are never well written or well paced emotionally.
Your mother's name is Mary? Martha! Also, I was just like, I was in the middle of the theater, and I distinctly remember just like looking around just to see if anybody else like is just like, why did they think this was convincing? But anyways. But yeah, like you said, this Guardians of the Galaxy 2 does a very good thing of being emotional and actually getting to you. And like, I actually really felt that, and it's really hard for movies to get to me. I am an emotional person, but I'm very under control of my emotions. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, if they go another step or two farther, I might actually have to shed a tear.
Yeah, especially towards the end of that movie. Yeah, they did a great job with that. Very excited for more of Guardians of the Galaxy in the future, hopefully. So,
yep. All right. You guys want to talk about the main topic?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I have a question before we start, though. Who wrote this essay?
That would be Bcom, because I don't write.
So part of this was me, and actually a lot of this discussion about cheat codes is pulled from an article for Vice's Waypoint website. That was written in December 2016 by David L. Craddock, titled "How Cheat Codes Vanished from Video Games." I'm going to like liberally paraphrase from him, because I thought this history of like cheat codes and how they became such a huge thing, and now how they've like sort of vanished off the face of the earth, was really interesting.
No, it is really cool. I enjoyed actually reading what you wrote and then rereading his article or whatever. But I have my own theory.
Yeah,
I don't think cheat codes actually disappeared. I believe they more or less evolved into what we refer to as mods.
I definitely think that's part of it.
Which is, what do mods do? The same thing that cheat codes do. They just got a new name and a way of implementing them.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Like, you can totally change your game with a mod, and like some of the oldest cheat codes were just like to change the way your game played, like, or just look at like GoldenEye's like unlockable cheats. Like, they changed the game, like they just modded the game. Like, they gave you big head mode or like tiny bond mode.
Yeah, I just believe they've been renamed. That's how I see it.
But yeah, so in the past, video game cheat codes were typically used as like a backdoor for developers of the games, so they could access parts of the game that they were making more easily when they were testing it. So, you would enter in a cheat code in level 1, and then you could go run through level 8 to make sure it's working with like the latest build you're putting together. But yeah, these codes occasionally got left in towards the end of the development cycle. Either devs figured that they would never be discovered, or they just felt like they didn't have enough time to take them out as they were rushing to complete the game. And so, like, initially, like, people would stumble across these codes and be like, oh my god, look at this cool thing. Or, the developers would later leak that they were there. And it became an interesting marketing tactic eventually. But yeah, like one of the most famous early cheat codes was the Konami code. And yeah, Craddock's article goes into this, like saying that while converting Konami's arcade shoot 'em up Gradius to the NES in 1986.
Oh yeah, birth year.
Me too. Programmer Kazuhisa Hashimoto found the game too difficult, and so he programmed a cheat to give himself power-ups. Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA start at the main menu. Hashimoto's cheat remained in the final version of the game and got a buzz going among players and magazines that discovered it. When Konami learned of the code's growing popularity, their programmers baked it into other games, offering different effects, most famously giving you 30 lives in Contra, depending on the game. So yeah, sometimes cheat codes were used to escape censorship of games, like the Sega Genesis version of Mortal Kombat, which contained the blood code to add back in gore that was missing from that version.
I remember a buddy playing that and actually using that code.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, I mean, everybody was like, "Oh, dude, I got the gore cheat, man." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
And this was during also when that game was out. This was when like the internet wasn't really, I don't think it was a thing yet. I don't think dial-up was really a thing yet. Mm-hmm. And so like having it was just is either word of mouth or they had a subscription to some magazine, some gaming magazine.
Exactly. So like cheat codes began to be published in gaming magazines. And yeah, so they caught on very slowly because they didn't have an internet discussion raging all the time. So like, yeah, you could like blow your friend's mind if like you went over to his house. And I specifically have this memory of going over to a friend's house and playing Doom and them showing me how to like open up the God mode in Doom. And I was like, what? you can unlock all guns and invincibility in Doom and then just mess around? That's amazing. So yeah, like one reason that cheat codes were so valuable was because retro console and PC games were often much more difficult than modern games are too. So cheat codes like getting 30 lives in Contra made the game like actually beatable for players who couldn't beat the release version.
Or yeah, just average people or whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, cheat codes made it possible for players to see more of the game that they just couldn't beat without those codes. And so developers started giving the cheat codes to game reviewers as well, with the added stipulation that like just don't publish these codes in your magazine until a few issues after your review issue. And so, you know, magazines like would review the game and they would use like the cheat codes if they needed to beat the game and find out like all the secrets and stuff. And then a couple issues later, they'd say, "Hey, by the way, we've got this cool new cheat code for Contra or for whatever game." And so,
yeah, it's almost a really nice way to suddenly stir up more interest into a game. It's been out for a while, and not even a while, just maybe a couple weeks, and people are like, and they're slowly getting off of it, and they're like, "Oh, here's this cheat code," and like, "Oh, I must go play again." So it's a marketing strategy, really.
Definitely. So what began to change everything was first there were some cartridge-based games that eventually had hardware cheats, like with things like the Game Genie or Game Shark, which were, you know, third-party products that you would insert between your system and your cartridge. And the way that they would basically work is that you would turn the system on, you would turn the Game Genie on, and you would enter in like a code or the codes that you wanted to use on the specific game. And then when the game was running, it would substitute certain memory values to the game as necessary based on the cheats that you wanted to use. So like it would rewrite the memory of the game as you were playing it, so you like wouldn't take any damage or something. So that would be like invincibility mode or, you know, other cheats like that.
Oh, I didn't know that's how they work. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like apparently a couple guys who made the Game Genie basically just like backwards like hacked like games until they found out what memory values needed to be changed for certain effects to happen.
Yeah, you keep talking about the Game Genie, but I was more familiar with the Game Shark.
Yeah, me too. I never had a Game Genie. I had a Game Shark. Actually, my friend had a Game Shark. I never had one for N64 and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it was just so much fun to use that. But yeah, when the CD-ROM era hit, these cartridge-based cheat systems largely became obsolete because you couldn't do it. And then eventually, the internet just killed everything. Because with the advent of internet gaming sites and forums and just like online cheat websites. Cheats began to be posted online before they ever reached a magazine. The types of cheats that people were interested in shifted from ones like God mode or infinite items to cheats like those in GoldenEye, like we were talking about, where you'd have cosmetic effects or, things that made like tiny changes to the difficulty of the game. And then I think the real death knell for cheat codes was achievements, because people started this with the like Xbox achievements and PSN trophies, the rage over that. People became very prideful about achievements, and like you would prove how good of a gamer you were by like your achievement score or your trophies, instead of like, oh, I can like unlock God mode and that makes me cool. It's like, no, I actually worked hard for this achievement and that's what makes me a good gamer. So, of course, people didn't want people cheating their way to get those achievements, so cheat codes became like very much looked down upon in favor of good mantra.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I don't think cheat codes have gone away. They were not killed. They are still alive. They're just been renamed. And even when you do use a mod, it will not affect your gamer score or your achievements, like you just said.
Yeah.
So you can still use them, but they won't affect your achievements. So like I said, they're still here. They're just called something different.
Basically, yeah.
They didn't actually die off. It actually looked like for a bit, like you said, when they went to CDs, it did look like they probably dropped off. But then I think that was probably their down point. And then now they come back. It's like you can, because I know Microsoft's doing a pretty good job about now you can do mods with like Skyrim and Fallout 4 and just do crazy things. And you don't earn any of those achievements if you are using a mod. They know, obviously, but
that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. So in that sense, like, quote unquote cheating and achievements can live in the same space. Yeah. But, I mean, it would be if you had, like, invincibility cheats on and you were beating Dark Souls, everybody would be like, oh, who cares?
Yeah, you would get all the achievements. So
yeah, clearly that's not the point of Dark Souls, is you're supposed to, like, suffer through it and get stronger. But, yeah, I figured we would list off some of our favorite cheat codes from the past.
You're the only one with a list, apparently.
Yeah, I have a big list. I was thinking about this, trying to remember some of the ones.
Because you're the big cheater, and apparently Savage and I are not.
Oh yeah, especially in some specific types of games. But I mentioned like IDKFA and IDDQD were the big cheats in Doom for unlocking all weapons, full health, armor, and keys, and
I do remember a buddy who had a PC. I did not have a PC at the time. And I remember watching him play this game and use that code.
Oh yeah, because you could get the BFG, 9000 that way, and you can just go through slaughtering everything. It's so much fun. Or you could just test out all the guns. It was just super fun to do that. It was kind of it's like you can think of it as like a new game plus, where you just keep all your weapons or something. Even it's kind of like that. Also, Age of Empires 2 had some really fun cheats. Like if you want to get like food, gold, rock, or stone, you could type in cheesesteak Jimmy's, Robin Hood, Rock On, or Lumberjack. But one of my favorite cheats from Age of Empires 2 was a cheat called How Do You Turn This On, which spawned like a Cobra, like a car that just had like a machine gun on the front of it and just would wreck shit. It was so good.
The Mustang Cobra?
Yeah, like a Cobra Mustang with a machine gun that would just fire at like these medieval troops that you were battling, like with like, who had like horses and like bows and arrows, and you had like a machine gun, and you could spawn like a huge army of these cars, and they made the stupidest like sound effects. It was so good.
So you're bringing a machine gun to a medieval fight. I wonder who's going to win.
Exactly. It was just fun to see that play out sometimes when you got a little frustrated with the game. And then some of the sim games like SimCity 2000, I remember typing in like I'm a cheat to get $500,000 and typing that in over and over. The original Sims had Rosebud, that you would type in for like 1,000 simoleon dollars or whatever. And then the thing with Sims is like you could add like a semicolon and an exclamation point after any cheat to like have it repeat and iterate on itself. So you could just like enter that in a bunch of times and get like 50,000 simoleons, whatever. Another like really useful cheat was for Guitar Hero, where you could just unlock all the songs in the game by pressing like the yellow, orange, blue, blue, orange, yellow, and yellow again, I think, at the main menu. And that was nice if you were having people over to like for like a party or something, which would be really good.
I played that and I never even knew there was a code for that.
Yeah, that's a really nice one to know, to just unlock everything for the original Guitar Hero.
Are there any more for the other Guitar Heroes? Because they're like, what, at 18 now, I think?
I don't know if they kept that code in with the later versions of it, or they were more caring about like people like paying money to download songs or stuff. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, see, for me, it was a lot of the cheat codes I would use on games would be, well, almost entirely on PlayStation, but it was a lot of like, you know, I just want stuff to be completely unlocked. I don't want to like buff my player, have like extra speed in a racing game or anything like that. I just want to have the options of like, okay, I can race any car, I can do anything just from the beginning of the game and just kind of go through it that way. So that's like all I did. And then I used like in some of the old arcade style like sports games, just unlimited money. So like you could just trade and get all your favorite players on like your baseball team or whatever like that. So things like that, or like the one I remember the most is on Triple Play Baseball. If you do like, I think I've mentioned this before, like left, right, just repeatedly till it like makes a sound. It unlocks just this ridiculous team, and you like get a pitcher that throws 152 miles an hour. And
that's good stuff.
So like you're obviously, and there was no online, so you would only use that if like you're sitting next to your brother or something, and you're like, hey, you just want to like be like awful at this game? Here, let's make it really hard on ourselves. So
yeah, no, that's fun. Yeah, I'm trying to think of any other cheat codes I use. Leo, did you really never use cheat codes growing up?
I have no memory of using cheat codes. Maybe GoldenEye. I remember knowing about the big head mode, but that was it. Did StarCraft have cheat codes?
It definitely did. Yes. Hold on.
I played a lot of that, but I don't remember using it. It just I've just never cared for cheat codes, and even now when I do mods, like I try one out. I don't think I've played any of them for more than like 10 minutes.
Yeah, StarCraft had the cheat code like show me the money, which gave you 10,000 minerals and gas.
I may have done it for like fun.
Did you go to cheatcc.com?
Like at the time,
Game
I
Facts.
couldn't even play online, so I was just playing AI.
I used to use CheatCC.
Yeah, CheatCC was I think the prime website. So
yeah, and I was just using it for like just to goof around, but beyond that, I don't remember using cheat codes. I don't know. I get really discouraged when I play a game, and then suddenly it's easy.
One of the StarCraft cheat codes is really funny because it's called "There Is No Cow Level," and it gives you an instant win in any match, and it's a reference to Diablo.
I was going to say, aren't you talking about Diablo? But yeah,
exactly. There was that meme that there was like this secret cow level in Diablo, and Blizzard was all sneaky about it. And then when they released StarCraft, they had this cheat code in it that was "There is no cow level." So that was their way of telling the fans, like, okay, you can stop looking for the damn cow level now. See, like cheat codes used to be such a huge part of gaming culture, and I feel like we've lost that a little bit. But
yeah, see, like I don't want cheats to make games easy. I want cheats.
We haven't lost it. They're just called mods now. I'm just trying to tell you guys.
There's no mod that gives you like an instant win in a game, though, or I don't know. I guess.
Well, no, but there are mods in like Skyrim that give you every item you obviously absolutely want, or even invincibility if necessary.
But at that point, they're not for like, they're not for specifically, or from, I mean, like the developer themselves. It's just somebody doing it for fun. And I want something done by the developer intentionally as like a gift to the fans, like a, hey, we hid this in the game. Here's how you access it. Like, it's just a goofy side level or something that means nothing to the actual point of the game. But just like...
Yeah, and you are right, that is gone. But when things evolve, like a cheat code evolves into a mod, you lose certain aspects and you gain new ones. So...
Yeah.
That's why I believe what happened. Yes, in a literal term, the definition for cheat code probably is dead, but all it did was change into what a mod is now.
I'm looking at the StarCraft cheat codes, and there's one that's called "Game Over, Man," which is an instant loss, and that's also an Aliens reference. And now I get it.
Yeah, dude, Aliens is so good. Savage, please tell me you're gonna go watch some Alien movies this week. Right?
If I have them delivered.
I was walking through Walmart just a couple days ago. They had the first 3 movies in Blu-ray for like $15.
Yeah, they're pretty cheap.
Yeah.
They go on sale quite a lot. I'm sure they'll go on sale even more with Alien Covenant coming out.
So yeah, that's probably why it was even out, because of that. But
Synergy.
I will attempt to watch them by podcast 50.
Oh God!
We'll hold you to that.
I make no promises. My month of May is incredibly busy.
Everybody make a note. And also when you watch it, I want you to specifically pay attention to the special effects.
I will say it now. When I watch them, it will be in 2017, I will watch them and I will live tweet them.
Okay.
Leo, can I ask you something about Aliens? So when I entered in the Blu-ray disc, it was interesting because there's the theatrical edition of Aliens, and then there's the special edition of Aliens, which is like the director's cut from 1990 that has like 16 minutes of extra footage. Do you have a preference of the 2 editions, or do you know which one you've watched or not watched?
I have never really compared them.
I watched the extended one, and from what I could figure out from what James Cameron was saying about it is that like there's basically just like some early reels that give you like a little bit more like information and backstory about like what happened on the planet, and also about Ripley and like her conversation when she gets back from like cryo sleep. There's stuff they cut out. I thought it like was really good scenes. So I'm kind of glad I watched that version.
Yeah, I honestly I recommend both. Watch either one you like.
Yeah.
I mean they obviously cut it because for marketing things they figured the audience would prefer, like the faster paced stuff. And for the most part, like he would like have more story into it, so it wouldn't be fast-paced enough, and they thought they would lose interest. But if you're one of those people who do really like a big backstory, and so I guess that would be more your way.
Yeah,
that's really. I mean, and I think that goes for just most any movie that does that, for the most part.
Can I spoil the end of Aliens slightly to tell a story?
I'll take off my headphones.
Yeah. This is, Savage is going to step away for a minute. Just pay attention to the chat.
People
who don't want to listen, stop.
So, so everybody knows, like, even if you haven't seen Aliens, you probably know that, like, there's this climactic scene where Ripley is in, like, the power loader unit and fights an alien. I was like 5 minutes before the end of this movie, and I was like, man, that scene never happened. And, like, they got away. Like, they're flying into orbit. They got away. I can't believe they got away, and there's no power loader scene. Like, when did this scene happen? And, of course, the alien queen was, like, stuck onto the side of the ship. And it surprised the shit out of me. It totally got me. I was like, what's going on? Where's this power loader scene? And I was like, oh, okay, it's not over
Dude,
yet.
It's just like Alien.
Yeah, it is.
She escapes in her ship, and she's, like, working at, like, a table or something. And then suddenly the alien is actually part of the wall, and it moves and scares the shit out of her before she shoves out of the airlock. Yeah, it's a total repeat.
It is a repeat, but it's so damn good.
But both of them blindside you, which is just a sign of amazing writing.
Yeah. So that's it for spoilers. But yeah, and I just want to say, like, the whole ensemble cast in Aliens is so goddamn good. Like, oh my god, it's so good. I love everybody in that cast.
Oh, Sigourney Weaver is just she's an amazing
Oh,
actress.
so is Bill
Just-
Paxton and like the guy Bishop who played the android, and Michael Biehn.
Oh, John. He
Hicks.
just died too.
I can't remember his name. Yeah.
Oh, and he was in. He just played one of the doctors in Doctor Who. Also, darn it. Man.
And oh man, just I love the girl who's like one of the grunts too, who just like has always got like the heavy machine gun. She survives longer than most of the others, and she's fantastic. Oh man, good movie.
John Barrowman.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've heard his.
No, is that him? Yeah, John Barrowman. Yeah, he was also a doctor in Doctor Who, which is kind of a big deal, and then he was also in The Aliens. Let me double check. Film.
Wait,
reality
Lance
TV.
Henriksen is the guy who played Bishop.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Who is this? Okay.
Oh, also
this guy
Paul
was
Reiser, man. I think about Paul Reiser from the show like Mad About You, which I watched growing up, and him in this movie is so different from that. It was really interesting to see him as like sort of like a low-key villain in this movie.
Oh, John Hurt is the guy in the show. Dang it.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's who you were thinking of.
Yeah. Sorry, I got that wrong.
Anyway, yeah, the guy Al Matthews who plays Sergeant Apone, he is straight up Sergeant Johnson from Halo, just in every way. You could just look at his picture from Aliens, just Google Sergeant Apone Aliens, Sergeant Johnson right there. So, anyway, anything else for this week?
That's all I got.
Well, I guess that wraps it up for this week. Please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Twitter for podcast updates. Subscribe to us on iTunes and Google Play now as well, and leave us a 5-star review if you like what you've heard. Thanks, and see you guys next week.
Peace.
Later.